Chapter 10. Rumor 2. Just when I was about to gather the courage to approach Ganesha. It can't be. My Tilda isn't that Professor Deculane Tilda. Someone with a greasy tone of voice and clouded in a thick mass of perfume blocked my way. Nice to meet you. Long time no see. Quote, he was a handsome man with blonde hair. Although he was shorter than me, his magic was strong. I knew that guy's face. It was me who modeled him myself after all. Wilhelm von Garion rewind. Saying that he held a grudge against Deculane would probably be too much. He was probably just jealous of losing the senior professor position to him. Yes, Professor Deculane. How's your university life these days? I heard there was an incident in your first class. Quote, it was settled. Quote, haha. Indeed. Rather than that, there are some rookies these days who seem to doubt the professor's reputation. Quote, Wilhelm made a fuss. Wasn't there a saying like, lies have short legs? As Wilhelm said, Deculane's lies and deception were slowly unraveling. Of course, I'm eagerly awaiting the results of Professor Deculane's great magic research. You're working hard to achieve great results, aren't you? You held it back for so long, even though it's already been almost 3 years. Quote, I looked at Wilhelm. His expression and the vivid movement of his wrinkles seemed cheesy. It was as if cheese came alive. Human cheese. If that grand research of yours is too complicated for you to finish, feel free to ask me for help. I'll immediately come running. Quote, it was a sarcastic provocation. If it were the original Deculane, he would have shot him a glare. I didn't reply. I didn't even blink an eye. To be honest, I didn't care. Actually, I do emphasize with you. The title of senior professor would be quite burdensome. Anyway, it's an honor to be deemed worthy by the University Magic Tower's magicians. Are you listening? After monologuing for a while, Wilhelm, who finally seemed to have grown tired of it, wrinkled his nose bridge and placed his hand on the middle of his forehead. I'm not. Quote, Tisk, you seem busy, so I'll add just one last word. Quote, I looked over his shoulder at Ganesha. She was gone. Right, left, by the door, by the window, she was nowhere to be seen. That important person just disappeared. No one in this world will look upon you favorably if you continue pretending to be so noble, you know. Falling in rank isn't so uncommon among nobility. So stop your nonsensical research on the creation of pure elements. Quote, in that instant, I felt the heat rising up my neck. I lost Ganesha because of this guy, but that mayonnaise bastard doesn't stop and keeps on whining. Yes, Professor Deculane. Hell's awaiting you, so please do smile as much as you can now. Also, one word had already stretched into dozens. If I just stood still, he'd continue until I'd die of old age, so I approached him one step closer. Let me say something. Quote, I'd advise you to. Question mark. Quote, as I looked down on that yellow and white face, I put his mouth to his ear. Then I slightly whispered. Stop being so nosy and get lost. You rotten cheese bitch. This could be a death flag, but it sure felt refreshing. A natural smile appeared on my lips. Wilhelm would have hated the original Deculane anyway. What? Rotten cheese. You just. I shall leave now. Quote, I street bear away, leaving that overbearing bastard behind. I barely escaped from Wilhelm, but there were still many people that wanted to talk to Deculane. Many nobles rushed towards him as if they had been waiting. I heard about the incident. Iliade Sylvia quarreled with some obscure nobleman's child, right? But then, Professor Deculane appeared like a hero. My son told me everything. He. Just hearing him talk about it made me feel so excited. I wonder how the students must have felt at that time. Oh, my son's name is Senior Professor Deculane. Do you have time tonight? They told me many things. There were those fishing for information, those that were just concerned, and some that said things that came close to temptations. My head hurt after a while. The sweet smell of desserts and those awful perfumes seemed to weigh on my senses, because of that useless heightening of my senses, including my sense of smell, caused by the trait Iron Man. I just got tired of it, so I looked for an empty spot with no people. I climbed up to the third floor, which held few people. I leaned against the window frame in the hallway to catch my breath. Professor Diculain, someone called out my name. Looking back, I was greatly surprised. It was Ganesha, the person I had been looking for. What are you doing here? She approached me, looking at me with round eyes. Did Diculain and Ganesha originally know each other? I had no idea. I replied without showing any expression. I got lost. Quote, oh my. You know how to joke now. Weren't you waiting for me? Well, Diculain had enough ties with Ganesha, all right. Quote ellipsis ellipsis quote. I glanced at her as she walked up next to me. Apparently mistaking my glances, Ganesha smiled as she put her hands together. Still, I do feel sorry about that mission back then. However, I've already returned the advance payment and even the penalty fee. So can you cut me some slag? Quote ellipsis ellipsis quote. As I just stood still, Ganesha pursed her lips and puffed out her cheeks while she swayed her pigtails from side to side. All right, while I was sailing around the archipelago, I saw a child with huge talent. Just what the professor was looking for. I can't say it's magical talent though, it was a girl. Quote, I looked up at the sky outside the window, not saying a word. Before I knew it, it had already turned to night and the blue moonlight shone on the windowsill. Ganesha followed my gaze and continued. I'm sorry I couldn't bring her to you. No, I'm sorry that I didn't. I've grown attached to her. I just couldn't give her to the professor. Quote, I could understand the whole story, even without using my understanding. Being aware of his own magical deficiencies, Diculain intended to enslave an easy-to-control and gifted child who he'd use to build up some research results instead of him. He entrusted that task with Ganesha. By the way, Professor, how long do you plan to live like this? I was still looking out of the window, my eyes fixed on the moon. When I didn't give her an answer, she took a cigarette out of her pocket and posed a question. Hey, could you light this up for me? I don't want to. Quote ellipsis ellipsis. Quote, it's not that I don't want to, I can't do it. I haven't learned ignition yet. While Ganesha pretended to sulk, I opened my mouth. I intend to live differently now. Quote, really? Ganesha moved the cigarette from her mouth into her hand. I nodded without looking at her. That's unexpected. I thought you were going to kill me. Actually, I was here to see you as well. This sure is amazing. Quote, what's so amazing about this? I ran away without a word and you didn't even send someone after me to kill me. Quote, Ganesha's pigtails fluttered. Flap flap, that's probably how she expresses her surprise, but that sure was annoying. You worry too much. Quote, Ganesha was one of the best named characters in terms of combat power. As one could witness by how she was able to move her hair freely like this, she trained her body to the highest degree. She possessed the traits thousand rivers flow into one, and of course the famous adamantium body. She was a named character that could literally kill someone with a single hair. Who would send someone after this kind of monster? Someone crazy, that's who. Are you all right, Professor Diculain? Ganesha asked. Her right pigtail was slapping my shoulder. If you just came here to see me, go back. Quote, I raised my feet and walked towards the stairs. I came to build a connection to her, but I already had one. That meant, I didn't have a reason to stay in this hall any longer. Ganesha spoke behind me. Oh, can I trust you? Will you really not do something to get rid of us? Of course, the great Eucline family was strong enough to put pressure on the Adventurers Guild. Ganesha violated the Adventurers Guild's faith and refused to finish the mission without a reason, so it was justifiable. Or the advent of a downfall. Quote, of course, she was very much a crazy one as well. So I just continued to walk. I could still feel Ganesha's gaze behind me. Did he eat something wrong? Is he maybe sick? Or is it because he's freshly engaged? Just what's wrong with him? Question mark. Even though she was quite far away from me, I still could hear her murmuring. Then, the thick and acrid scent of tar flowed in. It was as if someone lit some fireworks for Sylvester. It was then. A villain's fate. Death flag avoided. Reward acquired. Store currency +1. What is this? A villain's fate had been triggered. However, the other day it said, overcome, and now it's, avoided. That meant that the conversation I had with Ganesha just now was also a, death flag. Oh, the chocolate is flowing out like water out of a fountain. Quote, Julie opened her eyes wide seeing the current, hot item, of the socialite world, the chocolate fountain. Riley, look at this. It's amazing. Quote, then, a relative, Riley, who stood by her side, grabbed her by the arm and dragged her away. Ah, for Pete's sake. Stop this and come here. Quote, why do you do that whenever I say something? It's not like I want to do that, but your words are just too crude. Night Julie, please save your face. You don't have to pretend to be surprised, just look at it calmly. Calmly. Quote, I didn't even want to come to this place originally. Quote, Julie glanced at Riley curtly before focusing on the chocolate fountain again. Bubble, bubble, bubble. It was interesting seeing the chocolate gushing out like that, but she'd rather eat the chocolate itself. Dark chocolate. A type of sweet that makes one's taste buds dance with joy. What's wrong with Wilhelm, however, beside the chocolate fountain? In a corner of Julie's view, she spotted a livid Wilhelm by himself. Who knows? He was just talking about something with Professor Diculaine. Why is he acting like that all of a sudden? Quote ellipsis ellipsis. Quote, Diculaine, Wilhelm, Sirio, Repel, George, etc., also known as the continent's golden generation, were all of the same age and Julie's seniors at the Imperial University. Diculaine was pretty much no different from those times. Wilhelm, however, was like a parasite, always sticking to Diculaine's side. However, due to some incident, they completely fell out with each other. By the way, how are things these days? Riley asked sensibly. What do you mean, with Professor Diculaine? There's been a lot of talk going around these days. Quote, rumors spread quickly among high society. What one said in the morning would be known even by the lowest nobleman's dog by evening. Riley asked openly, knowing how much she hated him. After all, she also hated Diculina as much as Julie. It's never good. Quote, she answered in a quiet but clear voice. Perhaps, everyone in high society perked up their ears just to hear these words. However, is this also a trick of fate played by the social scene? Diculaine, who had been away for a while, appeared from the stairs to the second floor. His exquisite appearance had fantastic timing. That guy, he still looks the same. I heard he's 33 now. Why isn't he getting older? Diculaine was an aristocrat possessing looks and style that were welcomed in any social circle unconditionally. Even those who hated Diculaine had no choice but to admit that. That's why Diculaine always remained until the very end of social events showing off his dignity. However, he was behaving strangely today. He was walking towards the exit. He even had his jacket on already. The nobles were blankly watching Diculaine deviating from his usual behavior. Talk, talk. The loud sound of footsteps echoed through the splendid venue. The crowd of nobles cleared the way for Diculaine. Many questions arose in everyone's mind left behind in this quiet place. What is Diculaine doing? Is he trying to go back? Already, he's leaving already, but it hasn't been long since the sun has set though. Why, oh, was it because of Julie? Everyone was just blinking at such an unexpected situation. Diculaine went out the door, leaving behind total silence only interrupted by the bubbling sound of the chocolate fountain. No matter how long they waited in that hall, he didn't return. Diculaine's sudden departure seemed to coincide with Julie's remark. With this the party began to heat up with this gossip as its firewood. Side quest completed. Attend the social event, Flower of the New Year. Store currents plus 5. Current store currency balance, 5 won. The servants looked at me in surprise when they saw me returning before sunset. Looks like I got home much earlier than they expected. I asked the servants if there was a spacious, unfurnished space, such as a warehouse, somewhere around, to which a middle-aged maid guided me hesitantly. On the expansive site of this mansion, there was not only the main house where I stayed, but also the mountains behind it, an ornamental forest, a garden, and the servants' quarters, as well as an abandoned building that had been used as a warehouse previously. How dirty. Quote, the warehouse was about half the size of a soccer field, but it looked like it hadn't been used for a long time and was full of cobwebs and dust. I didn't bother covering my mouth and acted as if the dust didn't bother me. Just the act of covering my mouth with my hands or coughing after inhaling the dust was against grace after all. Is there anyone outside? I straightened up and sent my voice out. The servants quickly ran in. Clean this up. Also, bring the metal ingots to this place. Quote, yes. Quote, I watched them cleaning with my hands behind my back. Diculane's servants were excellent at cleaning. They were able to clean this huge space to perfection in just 15 minutes. The steel ingots are here. If you want any furniture delivered. They also brought the ingots with them quickly. It was stamped with a seal, proving that it got airlifted from the smithy. It's fine. Go rest now. However, if I haven't called for you or given you permission, do not enter this place. Quote, yes, we understand. Quote, the servants stepped back without showing their backs to me. After confirming that they had completely left, I took off my clothes and hung them in the air one by one. This was called the psychokinetic hanger. I dropped a steel ingot on the floor. Then I used basic metal bending that I learned the other day. The steel my mana touched soon elongated and soon took on a familiar form, a metal bar. The moment I grabbed the bar and was about to start exercising. Quote, just in case, I used Midas touch on the metal bar. I poured in 3,000 mana points, the most I could. Metal bar. Filled diamond description. Metal bar made using bending magic. Support has been improved using Midas touch. Filled diamond class. Equipment superset fitness. Filled diamond special effect. If one were to exercise with this device, one can expect better efficiency. Midas touch. Level 3. It increased the efficiency of training. It had indeed a special effect fitting of the category, fitness. A very versatile trait. Quote, satisfied, I reached out with both of my hands and grabbed the bar. Keeping my pose, I straightened out my arms and started lifting myself up. 1, 2, 3. My arms trembled and my hands slipped off. I did 3 chin-ups. It was frustrating. I used to be able to do it 5 times, but I couldn't, no. I could. Maybe it's because I haven't worked out in a while. Quote, well, even with the trait Iron Man, I was only focusing on magic. How could I have been so stupid? Fortunately, my muscles recovered quickly, so I grabbed the bar again. Now for the second try. 1, 2, 3. Going beyond 3, 4, 5, 6. A total of 6 times. The numbers increased dramatically. With just one set, my physical abilities had significantly improved. This was the effect of Iron Man. In just 2 sets, Diculane surpassed Kim Woojin in athletic ability. That's rather embarrassing. Quote, I didn't know whether I should laugh or cry. I smiled and reached out for the bar again.